No. In fact, I was really very, very upset when the designation of the Falls Creek project, which will be used for the Olympic Village, it was initially planned for just wonderfully, and it was passed by the council 2 years ago that it would be 30% social housing, 30% moderate income housing, and 30% market rate housing. This has been changed by this council in less than 2 months after taking office, that it now will be 80% market housing and 20% for what is determined moderate income. And there seems to be a very, very, I find, disproportionate understanding of the value of land as compared to the value that these houses could have made to the people who need the most help in bringing up their children in decent, affordable housing.
You take a really clear look at the cause of homelessness. There's a universal formula that is around the world. When property values go up and incomes go down, it creates homelessness. And we've seen that in Vancouver, where property values have risen sharply and incomes have dropped relative to property value. People are stuck outside.
But, you know, when you think they get $510 for a month if they're on assistance. If they're paying $380 for, their room to live in, they don't have much left over. What is it, $170?
You know, we need to just expect decency for people, and hopefully, hopefully things can change, especially before the Olympics. I think we really need to be on this.
What the advocacy, certainly in DERA, has been doing for years and years, as well as so many of the other agencies in the downtown east side that deal with housing, is trying to get the city, especially the fire department and the inspectors, to keep the laws that the people with licenses to operate residents are required to keep, like have them rodent-free, have them, make sure that all the fire regulations are kept. The answer we got from the inspectors is that, well, if we push them too hard, they'll just sell the buildings. They'll get out of the business altogether. They wouldn't stay in the buildings a minute if they didn't make profit. Believe me, they're big enough on getting profit that they wouldn't even consider that. But to do a little repair, make sure they all have heat, make sure all the toilet facilities are running properly, that costs money. Where some of the people on our steering committee lived in some of those hotels. And the reason we were after the inspectors was that one of them said he spent as little time as possible in his room until he was exhausted because he had seen a rat cross his pillow. Who would want to sleep in some place like that? Cheapest place he could afford on his assistance. And some people have come to DERA and complained about not having heat on the coldest days in the winter. And they are up to now $380. It is rare that you could find one for $325 in any of these hotels. For $380, just their bed and a dresser, I guess, whatever, but a shower if it's working down the hall, and you can have 8, 10, 12 units on that floor, sharing. Frequently the bathrooms are out of service. The plumbing, very, very poor maintenance all around. So to use the excuse now that they're going to close them down because they're not keeping the fire regulations is just the way that the city is allowing these people to convert these into either hostels or something so that they can make more money during the Olympics. Bear Block, or I forgot the name of the hotel, just this week. Last week, I guess it was. Within 48 hours, the building was condemned and the license was pulled and the people were dumped out of the building. No preparation for them, no 3 months warning.
Of course, we're going to see a lot more of this during the Olympics. We're going to see that, this Safe Street Act that's going to be, getting rid of, people that we don't want to see on the street, that the business people don't want to see on the street. So I think that it's going to get worse, that whole idea of, what this needs to look like for the Olympics and what needs to be available for rental, sort of more market rental. I think we're going to see a real swift move in this neighborhood to clean it up and to be able to access these buildings that right now are housing people that are in critical need. I think they're going to be used more around accommodation and hotels and whatnot.
The promise was made that if there was even one converted, there would be a replacement. I really do hope that the IOC committee comes in here and checks on how many. We have lost over 1,000 rooms. There are at least 3,000 on our streets.
I saw a while back there, the Salvation Army wanted to build a shelter in this town, and City Council voted it down, stating they don't want the homeless problem in this town. They it's just appalling. What they're doing, shooing the situation off. I also last fall there were people living in tents down the bush there, and the city came in with a bulldozer, bulldozed all their clothes and tents into the ground, and threw everything in a dumpster.
So you've been homeless for the last 14 months?
Yeah.
How do you survive?
Food banks and helping people out,
They find places like right in front of our church. We provide, when we can get them, provide sleeping bags or blankets or whatever. And a lot of them find large pieces of cardboard and put a couple of them down, sleep on top of them. And then there are 2 or 3 places they can get coffee or donuts and soup or whatever in the morning. They find whatever food they can. And in the afternoon we give soup and sandwiches and other things that we get. So one of the big problems here is the lack of toilet facilities. It's a real problem in this area, which is, again, a human necessity, which, by and large, the city is closing its eyes to. Their hours are not, all night long, where there are people that are awake and moving in this area. They are not open until later in the morning, certainly, because most of the shelters, the emergency shelters, the people have to be out of there by 7 in the morning.
I think the problem of not having public washrooms in the neighborhood is quite a critical issue here. I mean, it's such a basic decency that if people have to relieve themselves, they need to be able to have somewhere to do that that's, respects their, decency. And, so our yard is regularly used as a toilet. And I mean, it's a terrible thing for a person to have to go to that degree, but also for you to have to come upon a person in your yard, that can't find a place to go to the bathroom, or watch police harass people that are going pee in the alley or around a corner. What are they supposed to do? This is something that we need to address, and people have discussed it and talked about it, and there's all these security concerns and whatnot, but we need to put some energy and money into something that's really basic.
So I was complaining one day about people leaving in front of the church. We usually have about a dozen sleeping out there, and just leaving their blankets and leaving, anything that they have. And someone said to me, where are they going to put it? Some of the fellows on the line come around with their blankets around their neck, but there are a lot of places they can't go into looking like that. I mean,